Well, very good evening to you. Watching the press preview. First look at what's on the front pages as they arrive here in our studios. In the next half an hour, we'll be seeing what's making the headlines with the broadcaster and former MP Anna Soubry and the Mail on Sunday commentator Dan Hodges. We'll see you in just a moment. But first, let's take a look at what's on some of those front pages, shall we? The Metro reporting that Boris Johnson's Cabinet Secretary Simon Case worked in the household of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex at the time it's alleged she bullied members of her staff, claims which she denies. The Mirror is leading with a backlash against the government's proposal to give health service staff a 1% pay rise. The paper calls it an insult to NHS workers. Sunak under fire as NHS staff offered 1% pay rise. It's also the lead for The Guardian. Though The Times reports that Wednesday's budget has found favour with some, as a YouGov poll revealing the Conservatives now have a 13-point lead over Labour. The Telegraph is reporting on the EU countries that are now making the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine available to the over 65s after initially questioning its efficacy. And in the Yorkshire Post, Rishi Sunak said to be facing a backlash from northern leaders after his own North Yorkshire constituencies given more so-called levelling up funding than others. The Financial Times has a story concerning the steel company GFG alliance. And the Prime Minister is worried that the final bill for renovations of his and fiancée Carrie Symonds' Downing Street flat could top £200,000. That's according to a source that the Mail has spoken to. OK, well, as I was saying earlier, we're joined tonight by Anna Soubry and Dan Hodges. So let's take a look at this story that is in so many of the papers, shall we? This pay freeze that's being recommended by the government, and it's not going to wash very well with the unions. But what about the public, Anna Soubry?
I think the public will be horrified by this. I think that there's a recognition that our NHS workers have gone way beyond what anybody could have expected of them. And the reality is I actually think our NHS is not just under terrible stress and strain now, and the workers are absolutely exhausted, but that we are going, in effect, to need some sort of NHS recovery plan. But it's only in two of the papers, and it's the lead, as you've identified, in the Mirror, and it's also the lead in The Guardian. It's not, as far as I can see, some of the papers don't mention it at all. And I think that's quite deliberate, because I think that the public will expect our NHS workers to get a lot more. 1%. It's just not good enough.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
And it's kind of like it's slipped out as well. You know, there's a feeling that it's been sneaked out, and that goes down really badly.
And Dan Hodges, the Royal College of Nursing have reacted, calling this pitiful and bitterly disappointing. They want to see a 12.5% increase. They say that 1% represents £3.50 a week extra for an experienced nurse. Now, after what those nurses have done for all of us this year, bitter pill to swallow, isn't it?
It is, but I think it's a reflection of the broader issues that were thrown up by the budget yesterday. Obviously, these are very bad headlines for Rishi Sunak. We also saw some bad headlines yesterday in relation to tax rises. I think we're going to see some bad headlines moving forward in relation to public spending cuts. We're going to see some bad headlines in relation to the size of the public debt. And we're going to see some bad headlines moving forward in relation to the quite anemic growth that is predicted once we've had the sort of post-coverage V-shaped recovery. I agree with Anna. I think there will be a public reaction. I'm not entirely sure it will be quite as bad as she's been setting out. I mean, we have to say there is an opinion poll that's been published this evening, which shows quite significant public support for the budget. But I do think with these things, it tends to take a bit of time before the full effects come through. But moving away from the headline, as I say, the reality is that this is a reflection of the absolutely dire situation that the public finances and the British economy is facing, and that we're all facing, as we all try to deal with the impact of the COVID recession and the COVID downturn. And I think moving forward, I think that Rishi Sunak and the government, while they may be getting some plaudits in the short term, for the budget. Obviously, this isn't the best example of it. I do think, as I say, it underlines much more fundamental issues that are going to cause real political problems for both Rishi Sunak and Boris Johnson as we move forward.
I mean, I can see you nodding there, Anna. I mean, the Institute for Fiscal Studies today saying that the budget really represented £4 billion in spending cuts. And whatever way you look at it, it's going to represent some real pain, isn't it?
Yes, and I agree. Obviously, I absolutely agree with Dan's take on the public reaction to the budget. But actually, I think that there's a good argument that people aren't daft. They know that the furlough scheme has cost the public purse an extraordinary amount of money. They know that the vaccines have cost an extraordinary amount of money. The rather failed test and trace and so on and so forth. They know it's got to be paid for. So I think they will take effectively the tax rises that they will have had. And I think they will take, to some extent, some form of cuts in some areas of public spending. But not to have mentioned in that budget anything about the NHS, and now we know why, and not to tackle social care when we know that these things have been heightened so much during the COVID crisis. I think the public will be genuinely cross, and it will be interesting to see, as Dan rightly identifies, how the opinion polls now wind out as some of this comes home. But I think the people realise tough things have to be done, but not to the NHS and its magnificent works.
OK, let's turn our attention to the Daily Telegraph. Dan, Meghan Markle, or I should say the Duchess of Sussex, featuring on the front there. Their take is that the Sussexes haven't been informed of this unprecedented inquiry being held by Buckingham Palace into those allegations that she was a bully. Tell us more.
Well, I mean, this is all part of the sort of the much broader, if you like, psychodrama that is attending the Sussexes, obviously in the lead up to the great Oprah Winfrey sit down, that we're all going to be well, some of us are waiting with bated breath, others of us just can't wait for it to be got out of the way, but let's give Oprah a due watch. But this is, if you like, one of the more serious aspects of the psychodrama, which is the allegations that she has been involved in bullying of her staff. Now, her and her allies will say, indeed, I think she explicitly has said, that this is simply just another attempt by the royal family to smear her. Others, however, would say it's a reflection of broader issues in relation to her and her character. I mean, I've got to be honest, I was saying about this today. I mean, I really haven't been following the twists and turns of all this, but
Dan, come on, where have you been?
I'm sorry, but
it's all anyone's talking about today.
But look, the reality is they've done this great sit-down interview. They're inviting us all, virtually insisting we all take a side. And I've got to be honest, I don't think either Meghan Markle or Prince Harry are going to come out of this quite in the way that they thought they were going to when they decided to give Oprah her exclusive all those weeks ago.
Although clearly, Meghan must have known what she was going to be in for, having said herself, in her own words, that the firm were perpetuating falsehoods. I mean, she can't have expected that to have gone unnoticed. Interesting who else is being drawn into this, though. The Metro pointing out that, of course, Simon Case, who was private secretary at the time to the Duke and Duchess, is now cabinet secretary for Boris Johnson. Prime Minister saying that he's got full confidence in him, but getting sort of sucked into this so-called psychodrama as well.
Yes. And therefore, somehow, the Prime Minister's drawn into it. I mean, it's nonsense, isn't it? I mean, I'm sorry, but I think there are far more important things to be on our papers than this. And I mean, and the people who are going to benefit, I mean, Oprah Winfrey must be just loving it, all this publicity for this interview. But, Meghan Markle has made some, because, of course, the clip that was out today was pre-recorded, obviously. And the interview was given before this latest revelation from the palace, which I think they should not be doing. I don't know why they are engaging in this. I just think it demeans the royal family, and I think the Queen should step in and say, right, no more of this. If they want to give interviews to Oprah, then and let them just get on and do that stuff. But what I do hope happens is that when in that interview, that Oprah Winfrey actually challenges and says, well, what are these terrible falsehoods that they've told about you? What are these terrible things that they've done to you? Because just making these claims without any substantial evidence, if you like, it is not acceptable.